welcome everyone to episode, zero. It's the 0th episode of Question Fields. I am Brian Buchanan.
And I'm Campbell McLaughlin. So a bit of an intro episode, I guess, just to introduce ourselves and tell you guys what this podcast is going to be about and what you can expect further down the road.
Yeah, and get a feel for us now, right? If you listen to this and you want to hop off the train, like this is the time to do it, right? No,
do not listen ahead if you hate us.
Yeah, maybe we just start, Campbell, with where we, who we are and where we're from.
Yeah, cool.
I'm Brian Buchanan. I am a high school physics teacher from New York, and that is who I am and where I'm from. Campbell, what about you?
Okay. I'm Campbell. I am a PhD student. I'm currently living in Sydney, although I'm Sydney, Australia, although I'm doing my PhD from Cambridge in the UK. I work on things to do with quantum computing and also condensed matter physics. So the physics of sort of what we call mesoscale systems. They're not tiny, they're not microscopic, they are microscopic, but they're not super nanoscale, but they're also not macroscopic. So they're sort of this weird halfway point, and you get some interesting stuff happening there, like superconductivity, for example. And so we're using those sorts of systems to do quantum computing, but it's all theoretical. So I'm not getting my hands dirty with experiments and the real world
yet.
Yeah. That's right. So that's what I do as my day job, so to speak. And very often just bang my head against a desk, asking myself why this isn't working, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Joys of PhD.
Yeah. So what is this show? What is it about? Well, I've had this idea for a little while. So I'm, like I said, a high school physics teacher. Obviously, I am at least a passing interest in physics. Definitely, probably more than that. Obviously, have not taken my physics part of my life as far as you have, and but I I like to watch science physics YouTube channels, and I like to follow physicists on Twitter, and I like to stay up to date. But I obviously can't. I don't know the nitty-gritty details because I just never went that far. But my interest has not waned, right? So you hear about things like quantum computing, like what you're working on, and it's
yeah.
This stuff sounds so interesting, and I still have questions, is what it comes down to, and I'm sure many other people have questions, and I wanted to make space for that, and
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine your students as well have some questions maybe that are they're sort of not within the scope of the courses,
right.
But you kind of want to answer them as well.
I want to, I give them my best understanding as I understand these things, but sometimes, I'm really flying by the seat of my pants, and it's I want to be passing along the right information, right? As an educator, I want to be passing along the right information, and I don't always feel confident when we talk about things like black holes. I think I have an understanding of black holes. It's very simple, very basic, but I don't even know if that's right. And so,
sure,
I wanted a chance to talk to somebody who knows this stuff more than me, and I think part of it too is I want to be, if I'm going to ask my students to humble themselves in my class and, potentially expose their weak spots, their blind spots, I should be willing to do that too. So in some small way, this is my way of admitting there are many, many things that I do not know, but want to know.
Brilliant. Well, that's a great little intro summary. I should also say that I am if in any way I can be considered a sort of expert on something, it's at this tiny little microscopic part of physics. So it's and even then I'm not by no means an expert. So I am sort of going to endeavor to answer these questions, but I'll do my research and stuff beforehand to try and get the best answers. And
wait, you're not the keeper of all knowledge, Campbell? That's
if
not
only.
You.
Yeah, that would be great. I haven't sold my soul to the devil just yet. But yeah, and maybe further down the track we'll get some people on that are experts in different things to, know much more than I do about certain things, and and so we'll hopefully have this big array of keepers of knowledge, as you say.
Yeah.
So,
and that really gets at the heart of it for me. Is like, I teach freshmen in high school, and we're talking 13, 14-year-olds taking a physics course. So like the scope of what we can do is so like. It was all the physics that was figured out 400 years ago, right? We're not cracking anything, too new. It's mostly Galileo and Newton, and then we stop, right?
Sure.
And so like I'm super solid on that stuff. I've been teaching a few years now, but it's also like we get to Galileo, we get to Newton, and then we basically stop. And like I realized somewhere along the way that like in any sense of the way that I am doing the work of a physicist, right? Because we run experiments, but they're obviously, like I'm a much better teacher and educator than I am a physics person. And which is not to say that, like, again, like I'm really solid on the stuff that I do know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But like the main skills that you're honing are the teaching ones, right?
Right. Yeah. And so this is like, I'm trying to flex all the muscles.
Sure. Fair enough.
Trying to bulk up. Campbell has a brilliant physics channel. Campbell,
Thank you very much.
I don't know.
Very kind of you to say.
I don't know the last time you updated your website, but you also have a brilliant blog that I devoured in like an entire weekend. So there will be links to all in the show notes, of course. But and then I just sent Campbell a message expecting to hear nothing. And here we are.
Yeah, so I guess we should say that we don't actually sort of know each other in person, but but we've nevertheless started a podcast.
Yes. We'll get you. We'll do some live shows. We'll get you here to do the. We'll make a video of the famous. I'll take you to the Empire State Building. We'll drop a penny. How did you? Why physics, Campbell? How did you get into it?
Sure. Well, So I don't know. I had a bit of a circuitous route to physics. I didn't really do much in high school, to be honest. So I did the compulsory stuff, but then in the later years, when you could choose to do physics, I started off doing chemistry, and then kind of dropped science. So I did maths, the sort of like the most amount of maths that you can do. I enjoyed that a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really sort of discover a passion for physics until a bit later, maybe sort of like really late high school, last 6 months or so. And, maybe it was a bit of a similar story to what you have, which is that I saw some videos online and found some cool YouTube channels and things like that are making amazing content and still do for the most part. And I thought this sounds really interesting, and particularly quantum mechanics. I think that was something that anyone going into physics and physics communication can appreciate that that's a really interesting topic and really wowing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I because I didn't do it in high school, I was like, well, this is just a sort of interest, right? This is just a bit of a hobby thing. And then I did science at university because I was originally wanting to go into medicine. And so I thought, you do some undergrad degree first and then you do medicine for postgrad. But, well, I had all these extra units. And so I thought, well, I might as well maybe do a beginner's level introductory physics course. And I quite enjoyed that. And so I was like, well, might as well continue with this.
Yeah.
And it just sort of, one thing led to another. And then physics and I fell in love, and later on you get the opportunity. Well, I'm not sure about all universities, but at mine here in Sydney, we got the opportunity to do some research projects, and that was a great opportunity. So I sort of had the opportunity to do some interesting things at more like the cutting edge, and that was really exciting. And that was also sort of quantum computing based, and yeah, and then sorry, this is turning into a bit of a long story,
No.
And then we had this year called Honours, which is like a year where you do some more advanced coursework and you do a big research project that lasts the full year. And so I decided to do that, and I could have done a sort of more medicine focused one, but at that point I was kind of thinking, well, maybe I
Yeah.
I get rid of that old plan and focus on physics a bit more fully. So I did that, and then I thought, I could go straight into a PhD if I really want to do this physics thing. But there's so much physics out there that I haven't learned yet, and I don't really know what I want to do full time, like within my PhD, and whether I want to do one. So I looked for master's programs, just a 1-year program that you could do somewhere overseas. And so I found some places in Europe and the UK, and ended up managing to, I was very lucky and got into Cambridge. And so I did a 1-year master's program there.
I heard it's pretty good there, Cambridge. Pretty good, just what I hear.
Well, the program that I did was called Part 3, or it's called like Part 3 of the Mathematical Tripos, or something really wanky like that. But it's like this really old program, and they these times they're just kind of pumping through students, so it's a bit of a degree factory, if you like. So it's really like, it's a difficult experience to describe. A bit of a sink or swim. Like, you've got to just kind of fend for yourself a little bit and find other people that you can form study groups with, and there's not a whole lot of support and things. But it was an amazing experience. But yeah, so after that I think I had a bit more of an understanding of what I wanted to focus on, and so ended up applying for PhDs and settling on one. So yeah, and that led me here. And then COVID happened, and I had to leave Cambridge and come back to home in Australia.
I mean, because you've also dipped your toes a little bit into like the sci-com world a little bit. Was that ever like, were you the kid, growing up always with the camera filming everything, or?
I did enjoy a bit of filming, and like I wanted to do more than I actually did, but I did a lot of I did a lot of drama, so that was my sort of creative outlet, if you like, and music. But wait a second, music. Are we about to start an international band, Campbell? Yeah, maybe. The Question Field Band. That would be exciting.
That is a sick band name, Question Field. Hold on, put the podcast on pause. What do you play? Do you sing? What do you do, man? This is
well, so at school I played mostly violin and piano, and I used to play a bit of guitar, but that was like my third instrument, and I was not the best student, to be honest. I would sort of like, I had too much on my plate, and wouldn't practice as much as I should. So I was I should have been better, but but the guitar was sort of the third one. But I do still enjoy plucking away at things when I can. Yeah, and then and I sing like in a choir whenever I can. So it's good fun.
I cannot believe you've been keeping this from me. I'm offended. I'm not surprised because, again.
Well, no, I think you'd be surprised at how bad I am. But if you want to do a second collab, that's always on the cards.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, for me too. It was never. It was not love at first sight with physics for me either. I mean, I remember. You hear about physics, you hear it's a very daunting class, it's a lot of math, and when I got to, I remember I did struggle like my first marking period in high school with it, but it was like, I don't know, man, once the math problems talk about launching rockets and catapults, and you got to airdrop supplies to the troops, it became just the most interesting thing in the, that I was doing in school. It still wasn't like a passion at that time or anything, but
yeah, I think that's the great thing about I imagine it was similar for you. So you go into these, finding out about these topics, and it's a sort of hand-wavy explanation, like particularly with SciComm. You hear about quantum mechanics, particles are like waves and particles at the same time, and qubits can be a 1 and a 0 at the same time, and whatever else.
Right.
And it's very descriptive and very mind-boggling. Or you could be like discussing rocket dynamics and things like that, and how to launch something into space. What's the escape velocity and whatever. But again, from a sort of surface level. And then once you're sort of maybe a bit more familiar with the concepts, the maths sort of it's not easy, obviously, but it kind of makes a bit more sense. Like you've got a bit more of a grounding for it. And it's so much more satisfying to find this like really deep level explanation and deep understanding of the stuff that you already kind of know a little bit about through these descriptors.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was... And the further down the track that you get, the more I found, the more satisfying that is, and the more amazing it is to like fully understand the reasons behind the way the world is.
Right. Yeah. And like kind of to that point, I very vividly, like to this day, remember when we were finally doing circular motion, and it was like, oh, like this explains so much about drive, because I was a junior at the time. I had like, I was taking my driving lessons and all that. And it's like, this explains why the car is doing what it does when I make a turn. And
absolutely. And like satellites as well.
And how it's all related. And it was really an eye-opening thing. And then, of course, as you're saying, I remember one day the teacher must have been absent or something. And so the sub puts on one of the classic videos on the double slit experiment, and it's like,
nice. I
cannot believe that this is like, how?
Yeah, how?
And it just
that's right. Yeah, it's crazy, and there's only so much that you can really do in high school when you're actually kind of doing a deep dive into one of those topics. There's only so far that you can go before you hit a wall of it being a little too advanced or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to get familiar with these concepts. So I guess just to explain about this podcast, I think we'll be trying to give a sort of maybe a halfway point between like a surface level psychom explanation and a deep mathematical rigorous explanation.
Yeah. And of course, as we get feedback, if people want us to turn the dial in any particular direction, let us know, obviously. Because
absolutely,
the show is for us. We want to make it for everyone as well. So
accessible, absolutely. And I think we should say that there's no like assumed knowledge. This isn't pitched at third year undergrads or something like that. It's for hopefully for everyone who has a bit of an interest in physics.
Yeah, Campbell, I don't know if you remember when I reached out to you, but I think I said something along the lines of like, it's not that I'm a physics idiot, right? I know I'm not that, but I know enough to get myself into trouble, which is probably worse, actually. So that's kind of where I'm starting. I'm so ready to be exposed as a physics fraud on this podcast. So I don't want anybody to feel like you need to know literally anything, I guess, except for being able to understand the words that we're speaking. and maybe not even.
That's right. And I'll probably be getting into trouble too. So if you notice something that I've slipped up on,
he's the keeper of all knowledge, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget.
But anyway, so yes, the point being, if I screw up with something, do let me know. I will block you on Twitter, but no, I'm kidding.
And if I screw up something, keep it to yourself. No, and cool. Just to put a pin on my journey, it was, teaching was also never like the one job for me. It was like in the set of possible jobs, and I originally went to school for audio engineering, and the first year of it it's all physics. It's the physics of sound, and I just really fell in love with that. And I mean, it's not a coincidence I'm still into audio stuff. Like I'm literally recording a podcast.
Yeah, so it was maybe like a way in. Like you already had this passion for music, right? And like physics is everything, right? So there's always a way in.
Yeah. So it's all related, man. It's all the same. Here's a question for you.
All right.
Do you have, so I mean, you went into this a little bit, right? Because you're literally studying quantum computers and that particular area of physics. Is there any other particular subject that like jumps out at you, or is like your jam, your physics jam?
Oh yeah, I mean, so many, but I think early on in my physics infancy, I loved the ideas of quantum mechanics, but I also loved the ideas of general relativity. And I particularly remember this great... I feel like I'm sort of revealing myself to be this sort of... I don't know what the word is. I'm not down with the kid lingo these days, but I like a simpleton, I guess, for like just having this having had this into physics within videos and YouTube and things like that. But they're so good. So I loved them when I was early on in the physics career, sort of thing. But anyway, so there's this channel called PBS Spacetime.
Oh,
and you know it? Yeah, great.
Do I know it? I was in with the original host. That's how.
Yeah, same. Gabe, right?
Yeah, Gabe.
So that's what I'm talking about. When it was still really early days, and they had this series on special and general relativity, and presented it in this way that was not completely original, obviously, but completely novel within I think within that space of like popular YouTube video world. And I just loved it. So you know we're sort of going deep dive into what is a straight line, what's a straight line in space-time? How does that differ when there's a mass involved? And so you do these, you consider what are called geodesics, so straight lines in a curved manifold. And so like the equator is a geodesic on the sphere of the Earth. And, by looking at these, you can sort of get a picture for how general relativity works, like what it means to have this phenomenon of gravity without there being a force between two objects, because that's kind of what general relativity says. There's no force of gravity. There's just curvature, and mass causes space-time to curve, and then the curvature of space-time tells mass how to move. So that was mind-blowing, and I loved learning about general relativity further on in my sort of postgrad studies. Yeah. And apart from that, so I mean, quantum is all great, and quantum field theory in particular was like one of these, again, more advanced topics that really tickled my interest. And so for people that don't really know, quantum field theory is the sort of framework that underlies particle physics and a lot of condensed matter physics. Those are the two main areas, but basically it's replacing particles with an underlying field, and a particle is an excitation on top of that field, or an excitation within that field. So it's sort of like you've got a surface of a pond, and a particle is a ripple in that water. And so and quantum field theory is the mathematical framework that you use to study those situations. So that was amazing. That was really cool as well to learn about. But yeah, so those are my areas that I really loved, apart from quantum computing and stuff as well, of course. What about you?
I mean, probably the topic that, like, when I learned about time dilation for real for the first time, and it was like, it's just like, again, just how, what, and like, I remember I got so deep into thinking about it, and it was like, I was able to figure out for myself the disparity that an observer looking at somebody going into a black hole, how that would differ from the person going into the black hole. Like I thought it out, and then I checked to see if I was right, and I was right, and I was like,
nice.
That shouldn't.
So just to maybe explain it a little further. So you're talking about when someone is falling into a black hole, they don't experience anything special when they cross the event horizon. But somebody from far away looking at them falling into the black hole sees their clock tick slower and slower. So they see them fall slower and slower, and they never actually see that person cross the horizon.
Yeah. That's messed up.
Yeah.
That's far out, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm sure we'll talk about that in a future episode.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
It's that idea that the thing that freaked me out. And that was like apt. I was freaked out by the idea that we have that internal clock, no matter what, that is just ticking. And then everything else can be different. But like
you can, it's like the movie Interstellar, right? Yeah. People observe your clock to be ticking at different rates relative to their own. But you don't experience that, obviously, because it's your clock. Yeah. It's always ticking at 1 second per second.
I'm finely tuned. I'm very finely tuned to me, at least.
That's very cool. So at the moment I'm teaching, well, sort of, we call supervising at Cambridge. I'm taking basically tiny tutorials with one or two other undergrads. And the topics we cover are classical mechanics and special relativity. And the special relativity part is so much fun to teach. It's great. It's so brilliant to present it and find little fun thought experiments and whatever else. Yeah, it's awesome.
We talked about areas of interest. Do you have like a particular Achilles heel, something that is like your blind spot?
Yes, I think when I was learning electromagnetism and electrodynamics, that was, I think every time I learned it, I sort of only really got it after the exam, like after the course had finished. And I had a bit more time to mull it over. It always confused me a bit.
And that's always that topic is always in like the final third of the semester, and it's like the professor's like, "Oh, I guess we should probably cover this."
Yeah,
before you go
that's
on
right.
to,
yeah, but it's easy. Don't worry. Yeah, so absolutely. I think sometimes it was presented well, and I got it a bit better. But other times, there was a lot of maths that I like, differential equations that I didn't feel comfortable with, and so I struggled a little bit. And then also, I would always get confused about like, so for example, you put a charge outside of a dielectric, and the charges within, like an insulator or something, right? And the charges, like the electrons around the atoms of that insulator, sort of respond to that charge. So they rearrange themselves to kind of screen out that charge, so like the electron, if it's a positive charge, the electrons are sort of attracted a little bit towards the positive charge, etc. And then the positive charge then kind of feels the electric field that is produced from that effect. And I would always get really confused about, like, it seems like there should only, that should only go in one direction, right? Like it's this bizarre kind of ping-ponging effect in my head, at least. And it always confused me. So, yes, definitely electromagnetism was a bit of a, I don't know, confounded me a little bit at times. But yeah, and within any topic, there's always something that's a bit difficult. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like we were kind of saying before, you could always go deeper, and it always rarely gets easier the deeper you go.
What about you? Was there something that confounded you?
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about blind spots. Optics for me are, it's not my favorite. And I think a lot of it had to do with the vocabulary. Are you dealing with concave, convex? And I just could never get them straight.
Yeah, I still
get
confused
ironic,
by that.
I couldn't get them straight, right? And then, are you dealing with the mirror? Are you dealing with the lens? Where are you standing? Is your image going to be flipped? Is it? And I never really got it. And thankfully, we never, we're supposed to go over that stuff a little bit in our curriculum with the freshmen, but like, thankfully, we never get to it. So it's like, oh darn! What a shame.
But if you really want to learn something, you got to teach it. That's what they say. And then you're like, I actually get this now.
Then I'll have to know, yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, I took that, like the highest level course I ever took was physical chemistry 1 and 2. And it's just everything was different. I mean, I took basically a year off from the physics side of things to get all my education classes done. And if you're not doing differential equations every day, you lose it. Or so is my experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And qualitatively, I did fine in that class. But when it came time to describe things quantitatively, with mathematical expressions, that's where it fell apart. But,
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I think, as you say, you've really got to be practicing fairly regularly to just get the techniques ingrained in your head. Sort of fine if you've had a bit of time to do that over a year or whatever, and then you maybe take a break. You can say like, oh yeah, I sort of remember how to do this. But at least my experience was always that there was this mad rush to the exam to get everything prepared and make sure you understand everything. And then as soon as the exam finished, classic, you kind of forget everything.
Oh yes. Yeah. So those are where I suffered mightily. Anyway, Campbell, this has been really good. I want to kind of cap things off the way that I cap things off with my freshmen. I usually, to get to know them a little better on the first day, I asked them a series of very important, very serious questions, and I thought I would throw some of them your way as well. All right?
Right. Okay.
So rapid. I mean, you can explain as much as you want or not, right? There's no right or wrong answer, except sometimes there is. Here's the first one. Campbell, is yogurt a soft solid or a thick liquid?
I'm going to say a thick liquid. You know, there's a field of condensed matter physics, which is not a quantum side of the field, that deals with soft matter. And
sounds like my body. Just all soft matter.
So they deal with things like non-Newtonian fluids and so like cornstarch and water. And then I think they would also deal with fluids like yogurt. So I would have to ask somebody, an expert in that field. But as a non-expert myself, I'm saying definitely a soft liquid.
Okay. Well, now we're going to have an entire episode just on talking about yogurt, and it's going to make me starved. All right. Question number
wonderful.
2. Would you rather spend 2 months anywhere in the world or 10 minutes on the moon?
Definitely 10 minutes on the moon. I mean, I guess, what's the ramifications? Like, if I spend the 10 minutes on the moon, can I still travel after that? Maybe that's sort of defeating the purpose of the question.
I mean...
Or am I confined to my hometown afterwards?
No, I mean, you could obviously... so maybe... Let's sweeten the deal. It's like 2 months anywhere in the world, all paid. Like, you don't need to worry about anything.
Oh, that's hard. Like, I really love traveling and sort of getting immersed in a culture and things like that.
Right.
But I mean, come on.
It's
on the moon.
The moon.
Like, how many people have had the experience? So, if I could, I would go on the moon. Even just into space, that'd be amazing.
I'm very surprised that the two people starting a physics podcast would want to go to the moon.
I want to go to a place that is thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, millions of miles away from other humans.
Yeah. Hot dogs. Are they a sandwich or are they not a sandwich?
A hot dog is we're talking about a sausage in a bun. Yeah, not like
I mean, you have hot dogs in Australia.
Yeah, we do. But don't you call... Am I just making this up, that there's another thing called a hot dog, which is just like the sausage?
Are you thinking of a corn dog?
Yeah, maybe I'm... That's just a corn dog.
I just Googled corn dog. They look disgusting. As disgusting as I remembered. Oh, thanks, Campbell, for bringing this back into my life.
I've never had one, so I can't comment. I think I should have one just for the experience.
Yes.
Well, a hot dog is, I mean, if you want to categorize everything, if you want to be just if you don't want to stick it to the man, yeah, sure, he's a sandwich, but yeah, sure, go on.
No,
hot dog's a sandwich.
Yeah, I forget where I heard this once, but somebody said when prompted with this exact question that if you have content between carbohydrates, it's a sandwich. Yeah. And I was like, that sounds right. So I've been going with that. And so by that definition, hot dogs would be a sandwich.
I don't know if this is a common thing worldwide, but we in Australia have, whenever we have a barbecue, you don't necessarily go all out and get some nice buns. You just get bread, like white bread. And then you have sausages and blankets, which is just a sausage in the bread with some tomato sauce and onions.
Right.
And so that feels much more sandwichy to me, because, sandwiches, like, generally speaking, you have some sandwich bread rather than like a hot dog bun.
Right.
But yeah. So if it's content within carbs, is a burrito a sandwich?
I suppose so. That feels dirty. People are gonna. This is what all of our first reviews, which please review us wherever you can review. Get that in there. This is what all of our reviews are going to be about: is yelling at us saying that burritos are not sandwiches. But I guess
absolutely.
So. I guess so.
I apologize to the people of Mexico.
Yes. So moving images on the internet, right? Do you pronounce it GIF or GIF?
I feel like the first way that you said that was specifically trying to get me not to say that one.
What?
Is it GIF or GIF? Firstly, I said GIF, and then I started changing to GIF, and then people started telling me I was an idiot. So now I don't know what to think. I think we go the middle ground and do your one, which is what, GIF?
I'm gonna have to listen back to that audio. I believe I say GIF.
Okay.
Because isn't it based on the G is graphical, right? And so, not that I'm a language person.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I swear there are acronyms that just ignore their points of origin. So I don't know if that's a good enough.
If that's a great argument. I mean, well, listen. Like I said, I'm not a language person, and all the evidence you need to know of that is that I refer to myself as being a language person.
Okay, good. Here's another one. Okay, LASER is an acronym, right?
Right.
It stands for I think light amplification from stimulated emission of radiation, something like that. And so the S is stimulated, but it's laser. And it's also amplification, not amplification. Amplification.
Yeah. I did just hear you pronounce, in our discussion about hot dogs, tomatoes. Can you say tomato again?
I say tomato, yeah.
You literally say tomato, and I literally say we are...
Well, we'll have to call the whole thing off, I'm afraid.
I'm sure we're going to find many of those fun
yes,
anachronisms, whatever.
Little linguistic differences between us.
All right, final question. Save the best for last. All right, let's say that they invent let's say that they invent the Dream VCR. All right,
they're pretty clever, those they.
Right, they always are. We have a Dream VCR, but the only condition, right, is that you can watch your dreams, right? But the condition is that your friends and family have to, they have to be in the room watching it with you, right? So would you use such a device?
I can't make an informed decision of this because on this topic because I very rarely remember my dreams. So I don't know what horrors there could be to observe. So it would be taking a bit of a gamble. But if I can't remember them, maybe they can't hurt me. I don't know. Maybe I have plausible deniability. I don't know how dreams work. So, sure, I'll go for it. I'll live on the edge a little bit.
Interesting. I think I would go for it too. I mean, again, not that I tend to remember my dreams all that often, but they're dreams. I don't choose what I dream about.
You don't choose them. Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, would I be uncomfortable if there was something weird and my parents saw? I mean, yeah, of course, but I think it would be. I think that weird, on balance with cool stuff. I'd go for it. I'd take that risk at least once, and then I would keep gambling until the weird. You have one bad trip and you call it all off.
I think the consolation is that most people aren't very interested in other people's dreams.
Yeah,
so they'll probably just tune out. They won't even care.
Yeah. And plus, you're going to get invited to their Dream VCR viewing too, so
you can feel uncomfortable as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 0 of Question Field. Thank you so much for listening. We have plenty more in the can.
Yeah, plenty more ideas to come up. I think, we should say these rapid fire questions were just a bit of fun. They're not. Yes. We're not going to be solely answering questions along the lines of hot dogs or sandwich.
Right.
But so maybe the next episode, I think we were thinking of something along the lines of dimensions.
Dimensions.
What are they?
How deep do they go? The answer is all the way is how far they go. All the way. So please send us your questions. We'd be happy to take a crack at them. Or let me Campbell will take a crack at them, and then I will see if I
Absolutely.
understand and if I can find a way to explain it.
So yeah, we might be pre-recording a few podcasts, so we maybe can't get to your questions straight away, but eventually we will be endeavoring to answer as many as we can. So if you have some questions that you want answered,
listen, your question has already been answered in space-time. We just have not experienced up to it yet. So it's already been answered. You've already asked.
Out there.
Yeah, so it's coming. We just haven't experienced it yet.
So what are you asking for? I mean, the information's right there. Come on.
Exactly. So, but thank you so much. Please, reviews help. We'll have some kind of social media presence by the time this all launches. So all of the links will be in the show notes. And until next time, everybody, this has been Question Field.
You've been listening to Question Field. Question Field is a game media production and is produced by its hosts Campbell McLaughlin and Brian Buchanan. For more information, please check us out on Instagram at QuestionFieldPod, on Twitter at QuestFieldPod, and on TikTok at QuestionField. If you have a question you'd like to submit, or would simply like to leave a message, please send us an email at questionfieldpod@gmail.com. Recently, the James Webb Telescope discovered 5 new stars, located in the review section of your favorite podcast app. Thank you for listening.